All right, what's going on, everybody? We're just going to scroll the internet and watch a couple debates and videos. So, if you want to watch some lunatics like leftists absolutely go crazy in terms of justifying the assassination of an elite, I guess, because he was a United Healthcare CEO, an insurance company CEO. And let's watch this debate together. It was on Pierce Morgan, so it's actually going to be a bunch of fun. If this is your first time tuning into my channel, my name's David Kate, and I appreciate everybody that's here watching me. Make sure that you sub, like, all this various good stuff, and let's get the show rolling. Yeah, we're gonna watch this.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
Well, why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
Because it doesn't fix.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question
A
funny.
bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all. Planned killing of a civilian by a ruthless assassin would usually provoke outrage from everybody, no matter their politics. But that's not what happened when this hooded man shot dead Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, which is the biggest health insurer in the United States. The assassin left behind 3 bullets scrawled with the words depose, deny, and defend. Reaction in some quarters has been almost celebratory.
I saw someone say this is like finding out about Robin Hood in the 1300s. Like every new update that comes from this guy, I'm like, that's so sick.
Deny, depose, defend.
Is Hassan really still a thing? Why are we letting these idiots into the political space and allowing them to have any political weigh in on any of this stuff? This guy is literally a lunatic. I don't know, but all right.
If that isn't a loud, clear message to all these CEOs across the board of these health insurance companies, I don't know what is.
We feel like we're living parallel lives with the elites.
Go to jail for that.
When you see the entire internet, left and right, united around one.
This lady drives me crazy, and I don't know why I allow them to drive me crazy, but Taylor Lawrence is probably like a poster child for what not to be. I mean, the type of articles that she writes, and by the way, she wears a mask like 5 years after COVID, which is absolutely hilarious. But all right, Taylor.
One thing, and that is celebrating, I hate to say it too, the death of a healthcare CEO. You have to ask why. And I don't think that has been discussed at all.
Well, we'll discuss that tonight because critics of this eyebrow-raising response to a murder, cold-blooded execution, included Ben Shapiro this weekend, who said it's evidence that leftist revolutionary violence has now become mainstream. There was a notably different response on the left to the case of Daniel Penny, who was charged with manslaughter after the violent homeless man he restrained on the subway tragically died. Well, today, just before we came on air, Daniel Penny walked free from court, not guilty of either manslaughter or criminally negligent homicide. And in further breaking news, authorities say they're now questioning a man in central Pennsylvania who was found with a gun similar to the one used in the shooting of Brian Thompson. The man being held was also in possession of a 2-page document railing against the healthcare industry and suggesting that violence is the answer. Well, the New York Times says Luigi Mangione, an anti-capitalist former Ivy League student, was taken into custody this morning at a McDonald's.
An anti-capitalist elite school student. Interesting.
Here to discuss.
I wonder what made him an anti-capitalist if he can go to a school that's about $40,000 a year tuition. But
this is Taylor Lorenz, author of the User Mag news site on Substack. Tommy Lahren, host of Tommy Lahren is Fearless on Outkick, and a author of the User Mag news site.
Why do they always have the same exact looking features? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
On Substack, Tommy Lahren, host of Tommy Lahren is Fearless on Outkick, and Professor Mark Lamont Hill, host of Bet News. Well, welcome to all of you. I want to start with the Daniel Penny breaking news, if I can, with you, Tommy, because I've been sort of incandescent about this case, as I think you have from the start. The idea that a war hero is in his civilian life on a subway and watches a completely deranged lunatic threatening to kill people, and he apprehends him and prevents him from harming anybody, and in the process, clearly, accidentally, didn't mean to do this, the guy falls unconscious and then he dies. And it's a tragic accident that happened, but it was entirely precipitated by this deranged lunatic going on a subway, threatening to kill people. A subway system, by the way, in New York, where people have been killed quite regularly in recent years. This guy is a hero, and yet he was treated like a criminal who should be thrown into jail for the rest of his life. Now, I think justice has been served, and he's been released, a free man, but with huge damage to his life, to his reputation, and so on. What do you make of this case?
Well, I'll also say damage to his reputation if he chooses to remain in New York City. If he comes to a great red state like the one I'm in right now, Tennessee or Texas or many other great states around this country, he'll be treated like the hero that he is. There's a lot I have to say on this, Piers, but I'd also say for those BLM grifters who are now coming out threatening to burn down the city, making this all about their race baiting grift, how dare you, and shame on you. You did not care about Jordan Neely when he was a homeless man living on the streets.
Wait. Are they really out in the streets again after this? BLM, Daniel Penny. Because if so, that is so funny. Like they you didn't hear. Oh my God, they are. BLM calls for. Oh, I guess let me share this. BLM calls for Black vigilance to target oppressors after Daniel Penny's verdict. What? A New York Black Lives Matter leader called Black vigilance to retaliate. What? Retaliate after Daniel Penny was acquitted in a subway cuckold trial on Monday. That's crazy. Is this even legal? Like, I mean, the First Amendment covers a lot of stuff, but I don't know about this. All right. Let's go back.
Struggling with mental health problems and possibly a drug addiction. You didn't care about him then. You probably stepped over him on your way elsewhere. But now all of a sudden, when you can use his name and you can use to fundraise for BLM or to get out your pent-up aggression or to claim racism, now all of a sudden you care about someone like Jordan Neely. It's all too rich for me, Piers. Expect to see New York City once again descend into mayhem and chaos because BLM needs attention. The pro-terrorists, anti-Semites, anti-Israel protesters have been taking all the wind out of their sails, getting all the attention. So now they want to be back in the headlines. But I don't think they're going to be met with the same sentiment that they had with George Floyd in 2020. People are sick and tired of this, and people know that Daniel Penny was a hero, is a hero, and should be treated like one.
Well, that's how I feel. A lot of people don't. Hawk Newsom, the founder of BLM in New York, has said that anyone who thinks Penny is innocent has racism in their heart before saying the KKK got another victory. Hypocrisy. Now, I want to play, before I go to you, Mark, I want to play, this is a clip of Jordan Neely's father talking about his reaction to the verdict.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either.
Bro, where the fuck has this dude been the entire fucking time? Are you kidding me? That's his dad? Your kid was homeless, mentally unstable, and this is the first time I've ever seen you, and you just so happen to come out after there's an opportunity, I guess, to get a civil lawsuit going on. Not suspicious.
It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people? What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged.
Now, Mark, I'm sorry. Listen, I've got a lot of feeling for any father whose son dies in those circumstances. But the idea the system has been rigged over this, the idea that this guy, Jordan Neely, clearly mentally unwell, homeless, and potentially violent. Nobody knew his propensity for violence. All they knew was he was acting in a very threatening way and threatening to kill people. And you have a guy who's from the military, who knows how to disarm people, who did exactly what he was trained to do. And then an accident occurred, and it's incredibly unfortunate. But he did not want to let this guy go in case he got up and carried out his threat. Are you really going to try and argue? I don't know if you are. I'm just pointing a question to you, really. But is this really the way it's being framed as a victory for the KKK? That if you don't think this guy is guilty, you've got racism in your heart?
I don't think that that's the dominant position from people like myself who are critical of what happened and who are disappointed in the outcome of the trial. I think it's too simplistic to say that anybody who disagrees with me is a member of the KKK or has beliefs like the KKK. I think that becomes almost like a straw man argument. I think there are a few things that we need to talk about with regard to framing. The first thing is, as you pointed out, Piers, this man is mentally unwell. This person was struggling with mental illness. That's very different than the initial introduction to this segment that you gave, where you said he was a deranged lunatic. And as you repeated multiple times, deranged lunatic, it would communicate to the audience and to everyday people everywhere that the only way to stop this person from destroying the subway and killing everybody was to put him in a 6-minute.
But he was behaving like a deranged lunatic. Sorry, Mark, he was. I mean, it's indisputable. Nobody knew at the time what his mental health status was. All they knew was he was behaving. He was behaving in a lunatic manner, threatening and potentially dangerous. Nobody knew if he was armed. Nobody knew what he might do. People were terrified. So I'm afraid, for all intents and purposes, the guy was behaving like a deranged.
He literally attacked a woman on the train, and he stepped in to protect her, and he was acting in such a vicious way that even when he was restrained, they were scared to let him go. And this is a normal tactic used by individuals who restrain people. So the mental gymnastics these people do.
Deranged lunatic. It turns out after the event, we discover he has mental illness. But let's not pretend that in the moment he wasn't acting like a deranged lunatic. Because he was.
I wasn't. I wasn't saying that. You interrupted before I could finish the thought. You would understand I wasn't saying that. What I'm saying is that someone with a mental illness may or may not be violent. Most people with mental illnesses in public space, according to all the evidence, all the data, are not violent threats. And so I'm saying that we should not presume that they are. I don't have an issue with you saying, hey, I'm going to subdue this person because I believe that they are unsafe for the particular context that we're in. What I take issue with is saying that I'm going to put them in a 6-minute chokehold because that's the only way to stop them from doing harm, and we don't know that. And that's the additional piece of this. The second piece of this. The second piece of
Yes. Finally, this is what you need to start asking: is that when these people draw up crazy lunatic narratives of we shouldn't have done this, okay, what would you have done then? I want to see this.
Pierce, Pierce, you spoke uninterrupted, and so did the other guests. So let me finish the thought before you disagree with it, please.
Fair enough.
The second point here is I actually agree with, which is that there are systemic issues here. There's poverty, there's homelessness, there are all these things that a lot of the world does not pay attention to until there is a crisis. That's not a BLM issue, that's not a conservative issue, that's not a left or right issue. The fact of the matter is we ignore this. The failure of the system here is not what happened on that subway. It's the fact that a person with mental illness can go untreated, unsupported, and houseless without any support, and then we end up with situations like this.
Right, but for his father to be lecturing everybody in the way that he did.
Hold us. If we didn't spend all of that money, $1 billion of New York City's taxpayers' money on what was it? Housing illegal immigrants, then maybe we could help our own people, especially when it comes down to mental illness. But let's keep watching.
Again, I don't have a lack of empathy for him losing his son, but the lecture that he gave, his son is wandering around as a homeless, mentally ill person on the subway threatening people. With all due respect to his father, where was his father in his life? I mean, is that a reasonable question to ask? If that was one of my sons, I would feel an accountability and responsibility for the actions of one of my children. Would you?
I probably would, but I also don't think that that's the most important question. I may share with you the opinion. In fact, I do share with you the opinion that, hey, we should talk about family structures. We should talk about parenting. We should talk about fatherhood. But when a father's son is dead in this moment, we as a nation, just like with the healthcare issue, we have an opportunity to talk about the broader system. Instead of us criticizing how a mourning father is dealing with his dead son, let's talk about the conditions that got us there. Let's not play a blame game.
Well, we're going to come to
I bet when they start to talk about this whole CEO thing, because I know what Taylor Lawrence stance says, but this guy's probably going to say a bunch of stuff like, yeah, it was wrong that he did that, but, and everything that they say up until but, you can totally disregard. He's going to blame it on the institutions and that the United Healthcare denied people and stuff like that, which is corrupt. But my very own simple question is that by your own rhetoric, you're essentially justifying the actions taken against the CEO. So that is what happens when you want to have that talk.
We're going to come to the cold-blooded execution of a healthcare executive, which I think is unfathomable to me that people would celebrate that happening literally within seconds of the guy being gunned down. But we're going to come to that debate in a moment. And obviously, Taylor, you're going to be a key part of that. But Tommy, I just sense that there's already a building momentum for this to be treated like a mini George Floyd situation. Now, I found the George Floyd story horrific. I thought what that police officer did was indefensible and appalling. But it's a completely different set of circumstances. This guy, Daniel Penny, he's a Marine veteran. He's on a subway and he's watching somebody directly threatening to kill people. And he apprehends him and he holds him down because he doesn't want him to be a threat to the lives of people around him. That used to be the kind of behavior that would win people medals for valor. Now you end up in a criminal court facing the rest of your life in a prison cell. And that's what I find so just, I can't understand it. How has society moved to punishing people like Daniel Penny for doing a good citizen's job, trying to protect people? I don't get it.
Well, you only can understand it if you're in Manhattan and you're in the mind of DA Alvin Bragg. There's a whole lot we can talk about there. Not a lot of things that office wants to prosecute outside of Donald Trump and Daniel Penny and other heroes. But I would also say this, when we're talking about this case and Daniel Penny, and we're talking about the race element here, let's keep in mind, Daniel Penny is a big guy. He's strong. He's young. He's a former Marine. If he's on that subway and Jordan Neely comes in threatening people, probably the last person that's going to be the victim is Daniel Penny. He can hold his own. Daniel Penny stood up to protect people that maybe couldn't protect themselves, the women, the children. Also, if you look at the footage from that subway, a lot of those people in the subway were people of color. So you have a white man that's standing up to protect people of color in a subway, and yet BLM is so desperate for their grift and for their attention that they really want to make this about race. The way I see it is you have a Marine.
That is so funny, actually, right? The people that ride public transportation, I mean, in New York City, you can really have anybody, but majority of them are obviously low income. You could be middle class, I guess, whatever it is. But you're even flying on a helicopter, so you're not part of the elites. And this individual on the right was just talking about the economic differences that minority groups have and why we should pay more attention to them, unless apparently they're minorities and even female minorities on a train being attacked by one of those minorities. And white person steps in to do something. But all right.
Who cares that he's white, standing up to protect people? He didn't care what color Neely was. He didn't
Totally
care what
agree with
color
you.
the people were around him.
Yeah.
He wanted to do the right thing.
I completely agree. Mark, it has nothing to do with skin color. And people that try and imply that it is, they are the ones playing the race card. I honestly believe that on this story. I've studied it in detail. I've seen all the footage. I've seen all the accounts. This is not a race story. Daniel Penny didn't do anything predicated on the skin color of Jordan Neely. He did it to protect people, as Tommy said, black, white, whoever. They were a multiracial subway at the time. Where's the race element of this?
I'm fascinated by the certainty with which you say.
Well, you tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I'm not telling you you're wrong. What I'm telling you is that I have no idea what was in Daniel Penny's head. He could have been motivated by race. He could not have been motivated by race.
The jury did. That's why they just cleared him.
I would disagree with anyone who says he did that because of race. But I would also disagree with you saying unequivocally that race wasn't on his mind. You have no idea, but you have
there is no evidence. There's no evidence.
You have zero. I agree with you. And that's
zero evidence.
And that's why.
So it's completely concocted.
I disagree with that. It's not completely concocted when you look at actual data on these types of things. But the bigger issue for me,
on these types of things. How many types of these have there been? Give me another one.
How many times?
How many times has a Marine veteran done a 6-minute chokehold to protect people on a subway from somebody who shouted, "I'm going to kill you"? How many times has that happened that you can rattle off right now, given you say it happens all the time?
So Piers, to be clear, I said things like this happen all the time. And the kind of sardonic question that you're asking seems clever to people who aren't smart. But as someone who's a trained social scientist, you don't have to have the exact same contextual factors.
You don't have to be. Sorry, Mark. I'm sorry. You don't have to be a trained social scientist.
If it were a school bus instead of a subway, it wouldn't make it less important. If you were an Army vet instead of a Marine vet, it wouldn't make it less relevant.
Is he arguing that all of this is inherently racist? Like that Daniel Penny, the only reason that he chokehold the other guy's name, Jordan Neely, is because of racism? Like okay, so to totally disregard the fact that he came in there all mentally unstable, drugged up, attacking a black female, and a white guy steps in to restrain him, and in the process, external factors, according to actual court details that we have, led to the unfortunate death of this individual. This guy thinks it's all because of racism. I just don't understand this damn argument.
It's a silly question to ask me. When was the last time I Marine vet on a subway? Blah 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 blah. That's not the point.
Okay, so hang on.
I never made it about race.
Hang on. So far, you've called me dumb, silly, and you say you're.
I didn't call you dumb.
What kind of scientist are you?
I didn't call you dumb.
What scientist are you?
Time out. You're not listening. I think you're very smart. I think you're making an argument that will only be persuasive to people who are not as smart as you. I never said you were dumb.
Well, let me respond to that.
When you rewind this, you'll see I never called you dumb. Yeah. I said you were being sarcastic.
You don't need to be, with respect, Mark.
I think you're being snarky with the question.
You don't need to be.
So again,
with respect, you don't need to be a social scientist to know that there is.
I want to know. I actually know, but how many? Let's see. Basically, what I typed in, you guys can look at this, is in the United States, there were 9,284 black murder victims and 7,289 white murder victims in 2023. And in terms of arrests, 69% of all individuals arrested were white, 26% were black. I'm looking for something else. What are the real stats on black versus white violence and police shootings? Well, first of all, I can tell you, looks at whites killing blacks. What does that say right there? Why is my screen lagging? Oh, it's not even lagging. Here we go. White killing blacks, 2%. Police killing white, 3%. Whites killing whites, 16%. Blacks killing whites, 81%. Hold up. Whites killing blacks is 2%, and blacks killing whites is 81%. And this retards claim that whites are systemically racist, killing blacks. Okay. Police killing blacks, 1%. Wow. All right. Good enough for me.
Evidence of any racial motivation for what Daniel Penny did. There are people who are trying to infer it, that somehow, as the founder of BLM in New York says, if you think he's innocent, you're a racist, and the KKK just got another victory. I'm not a social scientist, but I know that's horseshit.
Right. Again, the statement from the BLM person in New York, I don't share, I don't echo, I don't agree with. You're asking me to defend a statement that I don't agree with. The statement that I am making, that you and I should be engaging, is the issue of implicit bias and the issue of use of force.
There is what bias?
I said
You
implicit
think? You
bias.
think? Okay.
Thank you, Pierce. Thank you. When these idiots make claims like this, and they just try to rant on and on and on and on after saying bias, systemic racism, you pause them. You don't let them keep going. We do this on our TikTok lives, and people are like, stop interrupting the person. You can't. When they make such an outrageous claim, you can't just continue to let them go, because then they built their narrative like that around that damn stupid claim.
Hey, let's extrapolate that. You think if Jordan Neely had been white and came on that subway, right, and was acting like a deranged lunatic, as he was, but if he'd been white, do you think that Daniel Penny wouldn't have intervened? Because that's what you're implying.
That's not what I'm implying. What I'm saying
bias
is,
then? Where's the bias?
Okay.
Where's
implicit
the
bias? That's not what implicit. Okay. Let me use it. It's clear you don't understand what implicit bias is, so let me just use a different word. With all due respect. If you just let me finish the sentence, I promise you'll hear me.
He's going to say that his implicit bias led him to believe, because the individual was part of a certain minority group and acted a certain way, that led him to feel a certain way, that he had to actually restrain him in a certain way.
What I'm saying is that I have no reason to believe that he was motivated by race or that he was not motivated by race. But the idea that someone could be motivated by race is not outside of the realm of possibility, based on ample data that shows that people are more likely to use force against black people, that they tend to believe that
Look at that.
Black bodies are stronger and more physically resilient, and therefore they think they have to hold them in chokeholds longer. There's plenty of police data that
literally word for word exactly what I just said, huh?
Shows that, including New York Police Department data. So when you asked me to show other examples, no, I don't have examples of other Michael Jackson impersonators on subways being choked by Marines, but there is other evidence of people in very comparable circumstances where race has mattered. But again, I'm not making a racial argument. I'm saying that the guy choked him too long and he should still be alive right now. And the fact that he was held for that many minutes and people on the subway were literally saying, "You're killing."
I like how Taylor hasn't, nobody's addressed Taylor whatsoever. And then also, if you kind of look at Taylor's cheeks right here and facial features, you can kind of see it's like a permanent mask she has. It's funny. I mean, she's the same one that's been wearing a mask for 5 years. She believes that we're raw dog in the air because we're not wearing masks outside or in the cars by ourselves. But you could kind of see she has a permanent mask on now. Girl, that may not look good in 10 years.
Him, that is evidence that he should have stopped. Again, I'm not taking issue with the subduing of him. I'm taking issue with how long he held him, how long he choked him, and that he didn't stop him. Once that big guy's on top of him and he has physical control, there's a whole subway watching, he could have stopped choking him. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, obviously he choked him for too long or the guy would still be alive. It's whether he did this deliberately, and obviously he didn't. So let's just agree on those two facts.
I disagree.
Let's move to the other story, because Taylor's been waiting patiently here. So this issue of Brian Thompson, one of the top healthcare executives in the country. I'm just curious why your first reaction would be to his cold-blooded execution. And people wonder why we want these executives dead. And then you later commented when people were giving you a lot of blowback. I'm not alone, you said. Healthcare executive down with party balloons was on an expose that you commented on. Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like.
Wait.
Serious?
I mean, with so many other Americans, joy.
Caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because.
What? Did she really say that? She felt joy after an individual is assassinated on the streets?
It
joy?
Feels like.
Serious?
I mean.
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that being murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans.
I want you guys to realize how crazy and deranged this person is. Look, you don't need to feel any empathy, sympathy, whatever the hell. You don't need any feelings whatsoever for the CEO whatsoever. I mean, look, that's the moral playing ground you want to stay on. That's fine. But you're essentially justifying what happened to the individual because of who he was or what part of company he worked for or what part of institution and system he was part of, which is the absolute most deranged and crazy thing about it. Because in this very own position, that means she opens up the I guess the idea to, you can do this to anybody that you perceive is doing you wrong, which, I mean, that's what these crazy deranged leftists believe in.
Who died because greed.
I just want to hear it again.
Joy, unfortunately, because
you believe in the sanctity of life.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy. Unfortunately, because it feels like
serious.
I mean,
joy in the man's execution.
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that being murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year, and because they are denied life-saving healthcare from people like the CEO. Now, I want to fix this system. You're right. We shouldn't be going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No. I think that it is a good thing that this murder has led to America, or really the media elites and politicians in this country, paying attention to this issue for the first time. You mentioned you couldn't understand why somebody would feel this reaction when they watched a CEO die. It's because you have not dealt, it sounds like, with the American healthcare system in the way that millions of other Americans have.
I've dealt.
But that doesn't mean that you need to go and justify what the hell just happened. Listen to how deranged you are, Taylor. You literally went and put a picture of the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield after a policy that you disagree with was put forth. What are you know exactly what you're doing. This is a common tactic used by you far extreme leftists. You guys are literally obsessed with violence. You believe that the only way that you can fix these systems and institutions is not through democratic means or through the freaking courts that we even have available so you can adjudicate your claim and prove your claim wrong. No, you should take it in your own hands and not only be the damn judge, but also be the executioner. You're crazy.
Well, the healthcare system in various ways in America. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but the idea that I would view it as something.
Have you been denied life?
Hang on. The idea that I would view it as something joyful that a man who's just a healthcare executive.
Just because when I go and get like my vision checked or like my teeth checked or teeth cleaned, or I need really something important because it really hurts in my mouth and I can't do it through my insurance, doesn't mean I'm gonna go do this shit. I mean, we should check in Taylor into a mental institutions, bring those back first, then check her in to make sure that individuals like this, in case she gets denied for some sort of coverage or whatever, that she doesn't do some crazy shit that she's advocating for.
Has been executed in the street. I find completely bizarre. Let me bring in Tommy here. Tommy, I keep being told. Hang on, Taylor. I'll come back to you.
Okay,
Tommy,
don't say I'm joyful. I said
you said you were feeling joyful.
Yeah, I take that back. Joyful is the wrong word, Piers.
You think?
But I said, as I clarified, yeah.
You think joyful is the wrong word? Yeah,
sure.
I'd say it is.
Vindicated, celebratory, because again, it feels like justice in this system when somebody responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans suffers the same fate as those tens of thousands of Americans who he murdered. Or
Tommy, whether Taylor wants to retract the word joyful or not.
There you go. It's beautiful. It's exactly what I've been arguing. Again, you don't need to feel sympathy, empathy, whatever the hell you want to say for that individual. But what you probably shouldn't do is do what Taylor's doing right now, which is justify what happened and why. I mean, you can feel like this internally, no problem, but you probably shouldn't vocalize it because you will radicalize your entire freaking base into actually doing this. It's happened before. Violent revolutions in the means of corruption or whatever the hell these people wanted to bring in a revolution for. That's essentially what they do, is they would take matter into their own hands and be the judge and the executioner.
Oh, we all heard her say it, and I was just shocked. I mean, I find that kind of response utterly shocking, that someone could be murdered in the middle of Manhattan who happens to be an executive for a healthcare company, and people think this is something that makes them feel joyful.
Yeah, this is still the remnants of the incredibly bratty Occupy Wall Street movement that's morphed into 100 other movements by now, all equally as disgusting. But to celebrate the murder of a husband and a father simply because you disagree with his position at a company, or you disagree with the company, or you disagree with the system of healthcare that we have in the US is quite frankly sick, twisted, and disgusting. Why you'd celebrate anybody's murder, especially just an innocent man who you happen to disagree with, is really shocking to me. But it also just goes to show that the left and many on the left have a tendency to believe that violence like this, political violence, is necessary. It's a means to an end. And if they believe in the end and they believe in the means, it's really sick and wrong. If you want to have a conversation about healthcare in this country, that's fine. Let's have that all day long. But to be joyful, or even to say you're not empathetic about somebody losing their life when they leave behind 2 young boys, especially during the holiday season, the same day that millions of New Yorkers are celebrating a tree lighting, I mean, that's just too far for me, a bridge too far. The loving and tolerant left is at it again, Piers.
Yeah, Taylor, I don't mean to be rude, but why the fuck are you laughing all the time? I don't get it. Sorry, apologies for my language, but honestly, I find it unbelievable. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at Tommy's insane mischaracterization of why people are angry. It has nothing to do with Occupy Wall Street. This is a feeling that people feel across the left and the right. You mentioned Ben Shapiro earlier in his video about the healthcare exec. I encourage people to check the comment section on that video, okay? 100% of America is united on this, or rather the majority of America is united on this. We do not.
No, they're not. See, what she's trying to say is that there's people on the right, which I call they are populist right. I don't call them. They are populist right. And it means that they share some commonalities with the individuals who are populist on the left. They believe that the elites, institutions, and various things, because they don't care about the working class and whatnot, that it truly doesn't matter. But they're not celebrating or saying exactly what you're saying, Taylor. What you're saying is that you're justifying it. These people believe that, yes, he was corrupt and bad, but they draw the line that that's not how you actually take care of these issues. So, Taylor, you're not alone. You're with your extreme left on an island over here being super delusional, but to you, it looks like common sense.
Not think that this healthcare system that is murdering, again, thousands of innocent Americans who, by the way, Tommy, also have families, also have children. These people are being killed by our barbaric and evil for-profit healthcare system. And I agree, we should not necessarily go around shooting people in the street. And while I am joyful that this issue has been brought to attention,
did you hear that, Piers? Not necessarily.
It's just unbelievable.
They shouldn't be shot in the street. They shouldn't be shot in the streets because, again, it doesn't solve the systemic problem. You could United Healthcare will just appoint a new ghoulish CEO. The point is that we need to fix these systems so that, again, people like Brian or whoever's in charge of these companies stops murdering tens of thousands of innocent Americans. That is the crime.
Let me bring in Mark on this. I mean, Mark, I'm sorry, but there's just no justification for laughing your way through a segment like this, talking about how joyful you were that this happened. Is it?
Again, I'm not joyful that it happened.
Taylor, I'm asking Mark, not you.
Well, then stop.
I heard you. You said it. You may have recanted it, but unfortunately,
no, I'm clarifying it because,
unfortunately,
again,
as you know, this show keeps receipts. We all know what we saw, and we all know what we heard.
I'm not denying that I said it, but I'm denying that your interpretation of it, which is an insane.
Oh, I know what joyful means. It fills you with joy.
I'm joyful that people are paying attention to this issue.
No, you were joyful that he got murdered. That's what you said.
I am.
Then you realized what you said. Then you realized what you said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm clarifying it for you.
Thought, that's going to make things even worse for me. Mark, let me bring you in.
Just to be clear, things are great for me because, again, I am on the side of the rest of America, which believes that this for-profit healthcare system.
Actually, you're not, because most Americans do not think they felt joy in that.
Okay, again, just a very simple question here. Even if it is evil and corrupt, are you justifying the means that were taken to, I guess, I don't know, shine light onto the grievances? Seriously, is this the extent of which you will go to in order to take over an evil, corrupt system? Seriously, I mean, is this what you are, first of all, like, desiring, and then is this also what you're she's crazy.
No, because again, I didn't feel joy in that moment. I felt joy that people were paying attention to this issue.
You told me you did.
Again,
no, I tell you what, just to clarify, do you want me to play it again? Do you want me to remind you?
Stop misrepresenting my views.
Do you want me to remind you what you said? Do you want me to remind you?
You can repeat what I said all I want, but again, you're misrepresenting my views. I am telling you how I feel.
Social media will remind you later. Don't worry about it. Mark,
again, I'm glad
Taylor, can you show some manners to your other panelists, please? Mark.
Well, stop misquoting me.
No, I quoted you directly. You then recanted
Well,
it.
then
Mark.
stop misrepresenting my views and my feelings.
I'm not. You felt joyful, then you wished you hadn't said it because you knew how bad it sounded.
No, Piers. No, Piers.
I
I don't
quoted
feel
you
joyful.
directly. Mark.
Again, you are misrepresenting how I feel.
So let me as an independent third person here, along the time of third and fourth person here, maybe offer some clarity to this. It sounds like she used the word joy. You found it appalling.
Did you?
She says that she misspoke. She recanted, and you're saying that despite her recanting, she still said it in the first place. It seems to me to me the question is here is just whether you believe her or not. But we can move past that. I happen to think that none of us should find joy in death. None of us should find joy in people being killed. This was a person. This was a human being. This was somebody.
And here comes the big old but. Again, like maybe like that might be the shirt that I say. Everything that you say and then you say but, you can disregard everything that came before the but. What he's going to say is that we shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff, but, which means that you are quite literally justifying this shit. Holy fuck.
Who was loved and loved people. I find no joy, no value, no humor in any human loss of life or animal loss of life. But in this case,
wow, did I nail the butt or did I what? Let's go back again.
Who was loved and loved people. I find no joy, no value, no humor in any human loss of life or animal loss of life. But in this case, I think it's important to stress that because of everything.
This man literally almost said, but in this case, oh, and then he realized, so he was like, oh man, I probably shouldn't say it's justified.
Happen on the internet. That said, we can have two conversations simultaneously. We can find great sadness in the fact that this man was killed and also see it as a valuable and rich site of opportunity to discuss the bigger picture of healthcare in America, which doesn't lead to.
Oh my God, do they understand what they're saying?
To individual political assassinations, but does lead to the death of thousands, hundreds.
Okay, so let's just take an example here. If a president was, I guess, I don't know, didn't fit the political belief that you're aligned with or whatever it is, and you felt as though he was doing you wrong, he was corrupt and whatnot, does that justify doing what this individual did to the CEO? It's a very simple question, and watch them flip and flop when it comes down to their president.
Hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of.
How about this? Like, keep the same energy year long. You want to advocate for this kind of stuff? Whatever. Just keep that energy year long. Apply that to everything. Don't be such a fucking hypocrite, whoever this guy is.
People every single day, some of which is entirely preventable. We live in a system that prioritizes profits over people. And the fact that so many people who are otherwise normal and humane and loving and empathetic were able to find humor or joy in this tragic death, it says something about who we are as people, but it also says something to how this wicked system has damaged us and corroded our character and the fact that so many people who are,
the butts are just driving me crazy.
Are otherwise normal and humane and loving and empathetic were able to find humor or joy in this tragic death. It says something about who we are as people, but it also says something to how this wicked system has damaged us and corroded our character and eroded our sensibilities. I'm saying let's have that conversation about how sad this man's individual death is, but let's not let that be the only story that we tell. Let's also tell the story about this healthcare system. That's all.
Obviously, there's a much bigger debate to have about healthcare system. But Tommy, it was inevitable that the finger of blame would eventually turn to one person. Let's take a look at this clip.
Don't you think this is a systemic problem that's coming from the top? Look what Trump tweets or whatever whatever it's called, false social.
Called truth.
Yeah,
yes.
But there's the stuff that comes out of his mouth is exactly this kind of stuff, and he allows it. And people, I noticed in 2016, wow, people are behaving differently.
It was Donald Trump's fault, Tommy, that this lunatic. I'll call him a deranged lunatic, even though we have no idea if he was, but we do know that he believes violence was the answer because he said that in his little manifesto that was found on him. Tommy, it was Donald Trump's fault that this deranged lunatic executed the healthcare executive. Nobody else. Trump.
What is this bro doing? Like, on the right side.
The healthcare executive. Nobody else. Trump.
What is that? Like, are you a 2-year-old? I don't know. Did you hear something exciting and cream yourself? You need a piece of candy? Is it lunchtime? Is it recess time? What are you doing, dog? And she's still, I mean, I can't get over it. It literally looks like she has that permanent mask on her face. Like, damn, girl.
Yeah, this obsession with Donald Trump is quite frankly really unhealthy. And I hope that members of the mainstream media and these pundits, I hope that they seek help immediately because everything in their mind always goes
True.
back to Donald Trump. They eat, sleep, breathe Donald Trump. I think they're bigger
True,
fans of Donald Trump, quite
true.
frankly, than I am. But, you know, I don't see a different attitude that's dark and dismal in this country. I actually do see what is legitimate joy in this country about Donald Trump being reelected and sitting as our president-elect currently. And I think that the majority of the American people echoed that on November 5th. But there's just the obsession that everything has to be Trump's fault. Of course, everything bad that happens is blamed upon Donald Trump. But this shtick is getting old, Piers, because we've got Donald Trump not only winning an election, winning the popular vote, making great gains across demographics. You can't hate everyone all at once, everywhere. And the Democrats and these media hacks, they're really going to have to reckon with that because the majority of the American people are not on their side, as evidenced by a historic election.
Now, Taylor, I just want to because you've obviously you're unhappy with my mischaracterization of what you said and inferring that you were feeling joyful about what had happened to this guy. So we've got the clip and we'll just play it back just to remind you.
No way.
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, you know, because it's. I mean,
joy at the man's execution?
Years.
Certainly not. No, certainly not.
So you felt joy. You felt joy.
That clip, that you played that clip because you'll see that I didn't
And then
say
she
that I
said
felt
she
joy.
misspoke and clarified.
Oh.
And I didn't say
You
that I
don't think,
felt
Mark,
joy.
it was more that she wished she hadn't said she felt joy because
no,
you suddenly realized how bad it
why don't
sounded.
you listen to that clip again? Because I don't say that joy that I feel joy in the man's death. I said I feel joy because, and that's exactly when you cut me off. And if you let me finish,
Bullshit.
I would say I feel joy.
Bullshit.
Oh, bullshit. Piers, you don't.
No,
you don't know what was in my
that's
head,
not.
Piers.
That's not. She's right. She's right, Piers.
Bullshit.
It's funny when a person with a British accent cusses, or, you know, bullshit's not really a cuss word, but the way he says it is hilarious.
She actually said, I feel joy, and then you interrupted her there. Perhaps, I don't know what she was going to say, but she certainly didn't get a chance to finish.
Well,
Yo, this guy, somebody give him a freaking Olympic gold medal for the mental gymnastics that he's been performing for a solid 30 minutes now. I mean, this guy, love to have a conversation with him.
Viewers can watch the whole thing in the right context.
And you may not realize this, but
we don't censor things here. Mark, I don't know why you're going out of your way to defend her, mate. Because Taylor, let's be honest, you know what you said. You wish you hadn't said it. Let me give Taylor an opportunity. Would you like to apologize for using the word joy?
Again, if you take the word joy completely out of context from the word that I said,
would you like to?
It was because
would you like to apologize? Yes or no? Yes or no?
You just played the clip that showed that I said I feel joy because, and that's right when you cut me off. So let me tell you why I feel joy. I feel joy because people like you, who are rich and powerful and on TV and have all the access to all the healthcare privileges in the world, are finally being forced to pay attention to the barbaric healthcare system that murders tens of thousands of innocent Americans. And that is what I feel joy in, that people like you are forced to confront those systemic problems. That's what I'm joyful.
Yeah, I knew it would be my fault as well at some stage. Right, well, thank you to my panel. I appreciate it. Lively debate on two big stories that have been gripping America. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. There's that, and I appreciate you can always tune in morning, evenings. I'll be streaming all these debates and clips that I watch with you guys and then posting them after the fact on my YouTube channel. So I appreciate everybody that had to witness this, but hey, this is better than them being, you know, in their little bubbles, radicalizing more people. All right, take it easy.